Hello again, I'm Braddock Supervisor John Cook. Welcome back to Braddock Neighborhood News, the program I am using to provide you with information on issues facing our community and ideas on how we can strengthen our neighborhoods. This month, I'm pleased to have Tony Vellucci on the show. Tony is our Braddock District appointee to the Fairfax County Park Authority Board. Fairfax County is nationally known for its excellent parks and recently won the 2010 National Gold Medal Award for Excellence in Park and Recreation Management. Braddock is home to many of these fabulous spaces, and Tony and I are going to talk about some of the projects and programs that we're working on together that will make your parkland even more enjoyable. Tony, thanks for coming back to being on the show.
John, thanks for inviting me.
And I want to thank you for your service on the Park Authority Board. You know, people maybe don't realize it's volunteer service. It takes a fair amount of time, but I hope and I think it's rewarding personally, and it's certainly of great benefit to the people of the district. Why don't you just tell us for a minute or so what's the Park Authority Board do? What do you do as our representative?
Well, it's really kind of interesting, and I didn't realize what I was getting into when I got into it.
We planned it that way.
Yeah,
you know,
no, it worked. It worked.
Front, you know?
First of all, the Park Authority Board meets twice a month, and we meet the second and fourth Wednesdays of the month, and the meetings are open to the public, so anybody is more than welcome to come in and see how we do business. There are a number of committees that go to support the Park Authority Board, Budget Committee, Administration Committee, Planning and Development Committees, and the staff basically prepares projects that they're working on, and they work those projects through the committees, and then the committees get briefed to the board, and if it's an action, then the board obviously will vote on that. And but a lot of times, you know, they're information projects or information items to basically keep us abreast of what's going on with the Park Authority.
You know, it's amazing to me, even now, having been in office a few years, that there's a lot of ongoing planning and evaluation that goes on. It's not just a matter of having parks and, you know, somebody's got to show up and pick up the trash. You guys on the board, you go through the master planning process, and you're always not only just kind of overseeing the administration of our parks, but really planning the future. Talk about that a bit.
Planning the future, and master planning is important. As a matter of fact, you know, we're going through the master planning process on Monticello Park right now. Monticello is at the intersection of, let me get this straight, Burke and Guinea, exactly. I always get Burke and Burke Lake mixed up. But it's at the intersection of Burke and Guinea, and it's about 6.2 acres. It had been at one time a staging area for VDOT when they were widening Guinea Road. But we're going through the master planning process now, and we're getting inputs from the community as to the types of things that they want to see. There's a group that wants to have a dog park there, and so they've structured themselves. They call themselves Braddock Dogs, and they've been running around collecting, you know, signatures on a petition to bring the park there. But also we're looking at other things for the park, such as a skate spot. And one of the things that a lot of the board members on the Park Authority have realized that we've neglected a group of patrons, and that's the unorganized sport male teens. And we know that because, you know, a lot of times you're skateboarding down the middle of the street, and
shopping centers,
you know, wherever they can skateboard until they get run off. And of course, you know, what we really have to do is we have to provide them an opportunity to play constructively. And so, you know, I'm excited about the fact that Monticello on the master plan is looking at a skate spot. And not only are we looking at a skate spot, but we're also looking at an area for older kids, you know, a play area where we can challenge them to do different things. You know, part of the, you know, the exercise thing. But, you know, a lot of times when we put playgrounds in, they're basically, you know,
younger kids, right?
3 to 12, things like that. We kind of missed that 12 to 16 age group. So we're looking at that also for Monticello. So it should be very interesting, the entire process.
I think it's important for people to understand that our parks, maybe more than any other agency or segment of the county government, with the possible exception of the libraries, does serve the full diversity of our population in age, from the, you know, the minute you can walk, crawl, or roll, to up through childhood, teenagers, young adults, older adults, all the way up through seniors. That our parks do serve them all. We try to make sure in our design and planning process that we're serving all aspects of the population. The ethnic diversity in our parks is incredible. The number of people from different backgrounds that find uses for our parks, and that's all part of planning our parks to meet that need.
Exactly. I mean, we basically have to address the 6-month-old that mom or dad's going to put in the swing and swing back and forth to the 90-year-old who just wants to take a nice leisurely walk in their retirement years.
Yeah, and a lot of times we can have things going on at the same time at a park, at Ossian Hall Park in Annandale, when we have Braddock nights on Sunday nights up there, and there can be 100 people listening to the music. There can be another 100 kids on the new playground right behind where the music is playing, and people probably from
all walks of life,
and dozens, if not 100 different national backgrounds from all over the world live in Annandale, and they can come out and you can see a cross section of our population like you could never see in any other spot, all in one place.
You can. And so, you know, parks, we just have to be very cognizant of the fact that we have to address the entire population set of Fairfax County. It just really can't be one segment.
And the Park Authority's always in a planning process someplace, even in Braddock District. As you said, we're currently doing Monticello. Prior to that, it was Kings Park in my neighborhood, which started when I was Civic Association president. That followed Rutherford and Ossian Hall, which had been planned and then remodeled, reconstructed.
Right.
And so the idea is to, while you're doing one, there's always the next place, which is sort of on the tarmac to be looked at and lined up and ready to go.
And so let me tell you about the next one.
There we go.
So the next one is pretty interesting because it's a defunct swim club, and it's Kings West Swim Club. And actually, it's in my neighborhood on the Kings Park West side. But, you know, when the builders built the communities, swimming pools were a big thing. And it seemed as if we just couldn't have enough of them. And, of course, the demographics have changed. A lot of folks have elected to stay in the homes that they grew up in. And so they don't go to the pool anymore. So, you know, the population set has really dwindled. So our pools are struggling. And this one, unfortunately, went under. And so for about 5 years, the pool board has been trying to do something with the land. They've been unsuccessful. And part of the reason why is because most of the pool is in an RPA, a resource protected area, so there's only so much that they could do. But
so just so people understand, that means that most buildings could not be built there even if somebody wanted to build one.
Right, couldn't put a townhouse there, couldn't put a single-family house there. The only thing that actually can go in an RPA is a trail. So basically what ended up happening is the Park Authority was approached to take the property, but it did not fit at the time with what some of our plans were. As it turns out, the Park Authority did get with Department of Public Works and Environmental Services, who identified a need for some stormwater management capabilities in the area, and so they agreed to basically do the work on the property if the Park Authority would take possession of the land. And so the Park Authority agreed to that, and what's going to end up happening is the community is going to basically get rid of a defunct pool that wasn't serving any community purpose. Public Works gets to pick up some MS4 credits based on the stormwater management work. Stormwater credits with EPA. Exactly. And of course, the Park Authority gets to pick up about 9 acres of what will end up being undeveloped parkland at no cost.
And you know, Tony, the real winner in that Kings West Swim Club issue is the community. Because what we had there was not only a pool that had gone under, but it was an eyesore, it was a crime magnet, it was, you know, a swamp in a pool, bugs and everything else.
It was a dumping ground also.
And it was a lot of problems. And you know, you and I first got to know each other as fellow Civic Association presidents. I had a defunct pool in Kings Park. You had this one in Kings Park West. And we were, you know, we're fortunate we were both able to, you know, we were able to work with the county to get those things fixed. And I want to thank you for your important role in bringing together the Kings West Swim Club. It's a real win for the community that we were able to do this.
It is. It's a win-win. And but you know, there's from an organizational perspective, as the Park Authority, you know, the planets and the stars lined up for this one. The planets and the stars lined up for the one in Kings Park also. My concern, and one of the things that I do want to get across to our viewers, is the fact that, you know, the Park Authority is not going to be the ultimate acceptor of land, and it can't be.
It can't always do it.
It just depends on how things line up, and in this situation, it just lined up very nicely for everybody.
The importance here, and really the key, was the stormwater management. Big issue in Fairfax County, and once I think county staff realized that we had an opportunity to deal with stormwater, that then allowed for the Park Authority, I mean, because part of the problem was how do we take the pool out? There was an expense. And now that expense is justified because we have a great need for handling stormwater. That's where we can get the expense out of the stormwater program in Public Works. And then the Park Authority, of course, can now take a nice area, and eventually there'll be a planning process for that park. My guess will be that it will remain, for the most part, undeveloped because of the RPA restrictions. But also, I would guess, knowing that area, that the people in the community are going to just be so happy to have this sort of undeveloped area. It's great that we have fields and playgrounds and lots of things, and maybe some playground possibilities. It's also nice just to have what we call open space, empty space. A walk in the woods is always a great thing to have.
Absolutely. And the you know, the nice thing about this is that the community wanted to express their appreciation also, and so the community agreed to pick up the reforestation cost of the parcel. So once DPWES comes in, levels the area, basically puts it back to its natural state, then the community is going to come up with the funds to pay for the reforestation of the property.
You know, and one of the things that our citizens may not recognize is how much of a role citizens can and do have in this, what we call master planning, master replanning process the Park Authority does. I was amazed in Kings Park as Civic Association president when we were going to do the master plan redesign of the park, and I thought, okay, that means someone from the county is going to basically come in and say, here's your park. But that's not what happened. We had a community-based process, and people had a lot of real input and a lot of real impact, even to the point of choosing colors on play equipment and other things. The Park Authority was great with that. I've seen the same thing in Monticello, the process of if people want to be involved in what our parks look like, there really is. They really do have an impact.
And that's, being on the Park Authority board for a year now, you're absolutely right. The reality is that the park staff really wants to provide a product that the community is going to use. And of course, if it's thrusted upon the community, then they're probably not going to be happy about it. So making them part of the process and allowing them to have a big say in what goes on. I've been involved in several master plan projects now, not just in Braddock. Actually, Monticello is the first one in Braddock that I've been involved with, but in other districts. And folks come out and they say, hey, we'd like to see this or we'd like to see that, and the Park Authority is actually very, very responsive to that.
And these things are done within a framework, and that framework is designed to fulfill the missions of the Park Authority, preserve land, but also make land available for use, recreational use, cultural use, and all those things come into the mix.
Exactly. Exactly.
And, we were talking about people being involved in the master plan process, and really a great opportunity to be involved in what our community is going to look like in the future. There are a lot of volunteer opportunities in our parks, and why don't we take a couple minutes to talk about those?
Okay. One of the biggest opportunities that we have coming up is going to be in April, and Lake Accotink Park. As everyone knows, Lake Accotink Park is very unique in Fairfax County from the perspective that 3 magisterial districts actually use the park. So while the park is, for the majority of the park is in Braddock District.
It is a Braddock District park.
It is a Braddock District park. But we
have a little rivalry on the board on these things, so I just wanted to make that point. So.
There's a lot of folks from Springfield and also from Lee that use the park, and of course we have a friends group, Friends of Lake Accotink Park, FLAP, and they call themselves the Flappers, and but they're made up from residents from all 3 different districts, and they have a cleanup every year, and that cleanup's going to be April 14th. And so if there's anybody out there that wants to get a little messy, a little dirty, a little wet, and help pick up trash and plastic bottles and cans, that's a great place to do that. Another volunteer opportunity is we're lucky to have several lakes in Braddock District, and one is also Royal Lake. And so there's going to be a cleanup also at Royal Lake. And Royal Lake has actually two parks. They have Lakeside Park and they have Royal Lake Park, and they'll have folks cleaning up on both sides of the park there. But this year, what I was hoping to do also, and I'm going to work with the Braddock District Council, is we have a lot of stream valley in Braddock District. And the stream valley doesn't really belong to anybody per se, but it abuts a lot of different homeowner associations and civic associations. And unfortunately, what ends up happening is all the trash and litter that's in that stream valley eventually makes its way into one of the lakes. And so if we're able to get that trash before it gets to the lakes, then it saves us a lot of work later on. And so what I'm looking to do is have a volunteer day within the Braddock District and have civic associations and homeowner associations basically clean up the stream valley that is in their development. And so I'll be working with Braddock District Council Bill Barfield to get this out, and hopefully we could just have a district-wide Braddock cleanup day.
I think people.
And I'm hoping to see you out there too, John.
You know, Tony, we were talking before the show on that, and we're going to get together and try to plan this and get the word out. It's a great opportunity to make our community a better place to live. But you know, even if you're not a cleanup person for whatever reason, or you can't make the cleanup day, there's a lot of other volunteer opportunities happen all year long. FLAP is a great organization, and I think you've got a friends group now in Royal Lake that has started up, because our friends groups work year-round to look for opportunities to support our parks. It might be a cleanup effort, it might be planning activities, it might be raising funds that can be used for the maintenance of the park.
It can, and also it's for some maintenance at parks also. One of the projects that we're looking at, and another project that I'm looking for volunteers, is you mentioned Braddock Nights at Ossian Hall. There's also Braddock Nights at Royal Lake.
And Lake Accotink.
And Lake Accotink, I'm sorry. And Lake Accotink. But there's a project that we're looking at Royal Lake to basically put in some terraced area so that folks could bring their lawn chairs and not have to worry about sitting on a hill and falling over. And it'll allow folks to run on the trail without having to run into people that are sitting on the trail, since that's the only flat area there. So we're planning that project for the 21st, and that's another interesting project because the community is helping to sponsor part of that. Kings Park West Civic Association has contributed some money. Folks that attend Braddock Nights have contributed some money, and folks are also contributing their time. So it's going to be a project where the Park Authority is going to give guidance and supervision as to how they want the terrace to look. But we're going to get some sweat equity out of folks, and you're more than welcome to attend that one also. Just bring your gloves and your hammer with you.
If we keep talking, I'm going to be out there all the time cleaning up your parks, and happy to help out. It's great that people get involved, and when we get the community involved, it really makes it special. Kings Park West, great community, very active people. You mentioned Braddock Nights. We're going to get into the summer sooner than we know it. And we do have our Friday night Braddock Nights shows at Lake Accotink and Royal Lake. We start sometime mid-June, and we'll go through the end of August. Of course, people can come out. It's free. Great time to just come out, relax, hear some great music, very professional. Also an opportunity to volunteer. Both we have volunteers who help us out, just helping people come in and managing the show. And the financial aspect, we do have a Friends of Braddock Nights effort where people can contribute funds to support the shows. Some people don't realize that these are all professional acts, and except for the military bands, which are free, we do have to have funding, and it's all volunteer money. None of it's government money. We have corporate sponsors that shoulder most of this cost, but also look for citizens. Last year, over $700 were contributed by just everyday citizens, giving $5, $10, $25, $50 to help out Braddock Nights. Another way to kind of show support and to keep the project going, because it's a great community event. And
as you know, at Lake Accotink, we have a concession stand that folks can use. And one of the things that we're looking at this year to help Braddock Nights out is putting some sort of concession stand at Royal Lake, so that we can have ice cream or things like that for the kids. So yeah, we're going to try to be a little more resourceful and creative in ways of raising funds and making sure that Braddock Nights stays exactly where it is.
And that, the raising funds, and since we're on that topic, we should put in a plug for the Park Authority Foundation, and that's if people want to make a larger contribution to the parks in general. And I'll put in a plug for estate planning. If you've enjoyed our parks during your lifetime, and you want to make sure that the next generation can do that as well, you can leave in your will a portion of your estate to the Park Authority Foundation, which collects donations as well as bequests, and that money will go for the future of our parks. It's tax deductible. It's a great way to either make a direct contribution or leave a bequest in your will. Just think about the value our parks have brought to your life, and can you take that percentage and have maybe that percentage of your will, your estate, go to the Park Authority Foundation. Just another great opportunity to be involved.
You know, John, and something to think about it that everybody can identify with is to try to think back to that first time that you, as a kid, got on your first playground set of monkey bars or whatever it was that you did. And, you took for granted the fact that they were there. But when you think about it, somebody had to plan that, somebody had to go out and buy it, and somebody had to make sure that it was maintained. And so, a generation before you did that so that you could enjoy that as a 7 or 8 year old. And so basically what we're doing is, what we're talking about is doing the same thing for the generations that follow us.
And it's important, we've gone through some rough budgetary times here in Fairfax County. Park Authority budget has taken a large hit in the budget.
And I want to talk to you about that sometime.
Well, and I'm concerned too. It's a difficult process. We are fortunate that we've made it through the Great Recession with our county intact, with our county government intact. We are in sort of a flat budgetary period where there's not a lot of, there really isn't any extra money for any expenditures. And so part of what we have to do on the county board is we're looking for creative ways to work together with people to continue to provide the great service we do, and maybe in a little different way, or ways to enhance what we can do. And that's why we have our Park Authority Foundation. That's why we have our friends groups for our parks. And we encourage the sweat equity from our citizens who come out. And of course, you and I know there's a side benefit to volunteerism, and that is that you really feel good about yourself when you've contributed some time to the community. And I've heard that time and again from people who, in whatever context, it might be a community cleanup, it might be helping somebody in a tutoring program, and they go in thinking, well, I'm doing something for the community, I'm doing something for somebody else, and they come out saying, boy, that did something for me. It really can enhance your life.
Exactly.
And that's, that's the key to all this, that community engagement really is about more than helping the community. It's about having a more fulfilling life because you're a member of a community that's active, that's vibrant, that's involved, and our parks are a big part of that.
Parks are a big part of that, and to keep that going, one of the things that I wanted to talk about is an upcoming bond referendum that we're hoping to see in November.
That's right, and just so that our listeners know, there is a proposal out there for a park bond. Board of Supervisors has to vote in April whether to put the bond on the ballot. Then it goes to the citizens. Tough competition as far as, we have limited funds even in our bonding capacity. Yeah. But when we're talking about bonds, we're talking about capital expenses for the future. We're not talking about this year's budget. We're talking about what do we want our county to look like 10, 20 years from now. And so why don't we talk a little bit about some of the things that have been suggested could be done if there were a bond, so our citizens can start thinking about it.
Absolutely. And Fairfax County voters have been wonderful to the Park Authority in terms of approving bonds in past years. So we had a major bond effort in 1998, in 2004, 2006, and 2008. And of course, as you said, these go to basically support capital improvement projects, things like rec centers, like golf courses, synthetic turf fields, and just a range of capital improvements to address the needs of the citizens of Fairfax County. The next bond that we have coming up, hopefully, is a $50 million effort, and out of that $50 million, $12 million will go to the Northern Virginia Regional Park Authority, but $38 million will actually remain with Fairfax County Park Authority. And so, we're looking at a lot of different things. We're looking at the traditional park improvements, basically removing playground equipment that's no longer safe and replacing it with new equipment.
We've got some rec centers, we've got some artificial turf fields, and I'm going to have to jump here because we're going to run out of time. There's one more question I want to get to, but I think what we're trying to say here is we want our citizens to be aware, start thinking about future of the parks and where they think things fit in so they can be educated voters this fall. The thing I need to get to is the Americans with Disabilities Act.
Okay.
Where I was proud to support the motion in front of our board to enter into a settlement agreement with the Justice Department. We're going to bring our county into compliance fully with the Disabilities Act, and that means some significant improvements to our parks so that all people can access them, including people with disabilities.
Exactly, and the Park Board voted in February to start that with funding from the county to start bringing our facilities up to ADA compliance. Any new projects that we do are also will be in accordance with the ADA.
And that can be everything from, it's not just traditional access to buildings, but it's also trails. To go through our parks and everything else. And really, truly, to make sure that every single citizen of Fairfax County has the opportunity to enjoy our parks just as we enjoy them. And you know what? I'd love to talk further, but we've run out of time. Tony, thank you so much for joining us and joining in this discussion of Fairfax County parks. Our parks are an amazing resource for the citizens of Fairfax County. And your support as citizens helps make them even better. Please come out to some of the upcoming community meetings that we've talked about and others that you'll learn about. Contact my office if you'd like a recap of our FCPA 101 class, which is going to be just to give people a primer on our parks and to stay involved. I hope you've enjoyed this segment of Braddock Neighborhood News. Thank you for watching. Tune in next month for another edition, and please remember to look for ways to volunteer. Your community needs you.